Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I want to talk about some MCU rumors, in particular the rumors that the MCU might be considering rebooting Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. into the MCU. Obviously, this has been a long, extensive conversation I've had, many people have had, about the conversation of what is the MCU going to do about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Obviously, a lot of their other Marvel properties, whether it's the Netflix stuff, Runaways, Cloak and Dagger, have always been the most tangentially connected. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has been the most direct connected because of Coulson, but also, I always talked about it, it never went both ways. The MCU never referenced the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. continuity, but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. always played into the MCU's continuity up to a certain point. I want to say season 5, after season 6 is when they heavily diverted, because season 5, if I'm remembering correctly, Daisy is talking to a character, and that character's like, yo, did you hear about all that crazy stuff that's happening in New York? And that was like all the Infinity War stuff. I want to say there was even like a news report that showed like the ring ship that came down at the beginning of Infinity War. I want to say that, but I could be mistaken. But that, like, that's the like last MCU connection before like it split past and did its own thing. Season 6 going forward. Without spoiling it to anyone that hasn't seen it, season 7 does kind of bring it back, where it's like, if you wanted to, you could fudge that in a way where it's like, oh yeah, you could fudge it in a way where like, the way season 7, the series ends, kind of like, I don't want to spoil anything. It kind of falls back into the MCU's continuity to a certain extent. Once again, you still have to fudge some stuff. But my point is, like, if anything, like, I would want just leave it, because there's no getting around the fact is that continuity went away from the MCU, because obviously Endgame happened, and like the series never acknowledged Endgame of like, yeah, half the population of the universe disappeared for 5 years. Doesn't get acknowledged at all, like, because there's a very distinct time frame between season 5 and season 6. They kind of make that pretty clear. So, but nevertheless, obviously, like, I love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I know not everyone's going to feel that way, and not a lot of people watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I think is such a shame, because I think the show was always really good, but I think, for me personally, every season the show got better and better. But, you know, once again, that's just my opinion. I would love to see some of that continuity brought in, but the shame is, like, we would get, you know, certain characters, like, their histories would be kind of, like, cut away or skewed. Like, for example, if you brought, you know, Daisy into fold, which I would want Chloe Bennett to continue, like, portraying that role, you know. I think she just does a fantastic job as Daisy slash Quake. They'd probably cut out a lot of stuff, especially that final season about what it did for her story, because without spoiling it, it does some, like, there's some family stuff that comes up for Daisy's character, and it, like, plays a very interesting role at the end of her story that I'm like, you would be cutting away a lot of that drama and that, like, that heartfeltness and just like the complicated family situation she had. Like, there was some major changes to that like you would be cutting away from that, like that. It'd suck if you didn't acknowledge that, you know. I mean, just that, like I said, the entire squad. Don't just give me like 1 or 2. I want the entire squad. Bring in Coulson. I mean, to be fair, he's in the MCU already. To be fair, last time we saw his current timeline was obviously back in Avengers, and obviously we got him in the past in Captain Marvel, so he can probably be a little more squeezed in maybe than others. Bring in Melinda May. Come on, like, we need Ming-Na Wen in the MCU, like, more proper. I mean, if you want to, especially with S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything, especially where her story ended, you could definitely fold that into like a, you know, where we're going forward with the Captain America movies, you know, without spoiling Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but we got our new Cap, you know. You know, that's the most grounded movie, and I mean, to be fair, make it fit anywhere considering everything they went through in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., all the borderline magic, the science fiction of it all, like, but I think tonally she fit well, like, you know, especially depending on how they play up the Sharon Carter angle. Like, S.H.I.E.L.D. could definitely be an interesting element to kind of play with, because that's something they haven't really tackled too much on, like, what is the state of S.H.I.E.L.D. necessarily. I mean, obviously S.W.O.R.D. is kind of taking up the mantle, and obviously maybe because the show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was doing its thing at the same time, they steered away from that. This could be their way to kind of swing that back into the fold, especially if we're diving into, like, once again, Hydra never dies. It's just, you can never cut off enough heads to put that down, because there will always be another head that pops up. So that could be a way of weaving, like, Hydra back into the fold as well. I mean, there's elements, potentially there's thoughts that maybe that's kind of what, you know, Val, you know, Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character, is supposed to kind of be potentially like a Madam Hydra character, you know, so, but just not him, you know, not just stopping there. Obviously you get, you know, Mac, Yo-Yo, Fitz, Simmons, like, come on, like, I want that whole squad together, you know, because, you know, especially because, but also, once again, it's a conversation that I've had time and time again, which I can understand, like, you're asking people to invest in characters that have ran for 7 seasons. That's a lot for someone. That's a lot of homework for some people. For me, I've kept up with the show pretty regularly. Like, I always like watching the new seasons, so I've already done my due diligence. I'm ready for them to be brought into the MCU. Like I said, they're just going to probably fudge a lot of their backgrounds. Because that's also, like, it also plays into, like, a question I've always had, too. Like, considering we're introducing Miss Marvel, it's like, she's an Inhuman. How are you going to handle the Inhumans in the MCU? Because that hasn't really been fully tackled. It hasn't been tackled at all in the movies. It's like, oh, superpowered people, experiments, gods, that's where aliens, that's how we've handled a lot of that stuff, but we haven't tackled the Inhumans. And yes, most people think of the Inhumans show, but I think people are forgetting, yes, Inhumans kind of deals with, like, the history of the Inhumans, but chronologically speaking, with just everything's release dates and stuff like that, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. introduced Inhumans first in the chronological release, in the sense that, like, you know, so bringing the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. into the MCU, like, more properly could be their way of bringing that in, and I don't know. Not unless Miss Marvel is going to be their jump off point. Like I said, I've always been so curious, like, how they'll handle the Inhumans conversation because of that, you know? Because we got quite a few Inhumans. Like, by the end of the series, the only Inhumans you mainly got to see were Yo-Yo and Quake. So, but, you know, I still would want them brought into the fold, and what that would necessarily, I don't know. Like I said, this is just some of the stuff kind of crossing my head. Like I said, I've had this conversation time and time again. Obviously, it's just like, I think it's something that's always going to pop up to a certain extent. I think it probably also depends on whether, like, some of the actors would want to return into the MCU. You know, I would want them to get, like, the characters. Like, for example, if they're going to bring May in, you need to get Ming-Na Wen. You're going to bring in, like, Fitz or Simmons, you need to get those respective actors. You want to bring in Daisy, it better be Chloe Bennett, dude. Just because, like, these versions of these characters are the one, as an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, I've come to know and love. So because obviously, like, there's also conversations that's kind of the rumor mill that kind of has gotten bigger and bigger, is obviously the whole, like, Daredevil thing of, like, Charlie Cox's Daredevil, in the sense of, like, that's going to be like a soft reboot, because obviously there's a rumors like, oh, he's going to pop up in Spider-Man No Way Home, so as, like, Peter's lawyer and stuff like that, so they'd have to fudge that as well. So if, I don't know, I would want the continuities to stay in line, but once again, with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I know that's a weird line you'd have to, like, skew heavily. Once again, this is just pure rumor mill. This is just me talking about something, you know, I've talked about before, that's just kind of back in the conversation again with everything. Obviously, these are just some of my thoughts. I'd love to get to know yours in the comments down below. Are you someone that watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Maybe you're someone that watched it at the beginning and then fell off. Maybe you're someone who never watched it at all. Or maybe you're like me, who watched everything. Let me know your thoughts about, you know, potentially how you would want Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. potentially brought into the MCU. Would it want it to be a soft reboot? How would you want them to kind of go about it? Just let me know your thoughts about everything. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good